Okay, in this video I'm going to show you how to align a number of video tracks so that you could project them all at the same time and sync them up as you like. So you can go through your tracks. These are the ones we're going to choose. I've already put them on the timeline. Now you start with, select your first track, click on it, and then in Effects go up to Motion. Click on Motion and that activates that particular clip, and you can shrink it and grow it and move it. So you want to take the first track, put that in a corner, and you're going to take all 4 tracks and sort of line them up in a grid. And for each one you click Motion just to activate it. And you can size them and line them up a little bit more precisely after they're all in place. You need to click on each clip to activate it, and then you click on Motion again. Now what you need to do is layer them on top of each other, and you have to make sure that your soundtrack and your video track are both highlighted as you move them, and make sure that you separate them so they don't override the other tracks. And you can stack quite a few, but in this case we're only going to stack 4 tracks. And we're going to start by lining them all up together, and then you'll see how we make, you have the 4 of them lined up so that you can align them as you like for your video. Now you can expand and contract the timeline, both the soundtrack, the audio track, and the video track. And now you can see that they're all together, and at this point you can highlight each track and size them and size them and align them a little bit more perfectly, again through Motion. Now there are a number of different ways that you can actually size and align different clips. The easiest is just using the Motion tab. Now what I'm going to have you do is take these individual tracks. You can expand the entire timeline just so you can see a little bit more clearly. And then you can expand or contract various of the panels so that you can see them a little bit more clearly. Now what you're going to start doing is moving the tracks, the various clips, along the timeline. Now of course, if you're making a real art video, you have to carefully go through each clip and decide exactly where you want it. And then you get your razor blade and you can actually cut them up. And we're going to move all those little pieces all over the place. And when you want to move them, you just have to touch the pointer tool, but we're still going to cut these up a little bit more. And then with the pointer you can move them around. Now I'm just doing these randomly, but when you're making your video, of course, you have to be very careful where you place everything. So you can move them around and then take your cursor and move it through the track just to see if they're lined up as you like. And you can adjust this endlessly, really. And I'd like to start the video with all 4 videos playing at once, all 4 clips playing at once, so we stack them at the beginning there. And I'm adjusting these and moving them around so that there are no blank spots in the video to be projected. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go through it and check the soundtrack, see it's as you like, and then you can adjust them. So you'll want to spend a little bit more time than that. Now you can toggle these so that your tracks expand, so you can go in there and start adjusting the soundtrack. And you want to get your pen tool, and with the pen tool you can start making keyframes. And then once you've made some keyframes on the soundtrack, you can start adjusting them up and down to play with the sound levels and the decibel levels. Now, of course, as you do this, you're going to want to check these levels, but I'm just doing this randomly, and then I'll export it. It's a good idea to wear headphones when you're adjusting all of these levels, because these a lot of the tracks will be in stereo. Now, once you've got it adjusted, you can export them. And again, that's how you expand or contract the various clips and the various tracks. A little bit more adjustment here. And you can put a few transitions in there if you like, and both audio and video transitions, some fade ins, fade outs. Sorry, you want to export these one track at a time. So we'll put a few more transitions on first. And those transitions you will find in the effects bin. Now what you're going to do is you're going to blank out and mute 3 of the tracks so that you can only see 1 at a time, and then only 1 will export at a time. So you mute the sound tracks and the video tracks, and therefore you only have 1. Now you're going to have to take that track and expand it back to its original size. So you highlight it, go back up to Motion, click on the Motion tab, and for the scale you can just type in 100 because that's the original scale. And then once motion is activated, you can move it around. Or you can actually type in the original numbers, which is 960 and 540. And just remember those coordinates, and it will put it exactly in place. And now you can actually export that particular clip. So you go up into File, click Export Media, and then you give it a name. And export it as H264. So you click Export, and you'll get your first track. Now you want to export the next track, so you have to blank out the track that you just exported and mute that. And then make visible. You click those eyes to mute them and to make them visible. And you do the same process with that one. Just type in for the scale or the position, type in 960 by 540. And it puts it into place. And then put in for scale 100%. And it's actually best doing it by typing in the numbers, then moving it around. And now you can export that track. And now these tracks will all be perfectly lined up, provided that you did your job on the timeline. And then when you play them, and they'll all be exactly the same length, you can play them over and over again on either DVDs or media player. And in this case, you'll have 4 separate tracks that you can then project.